My goodness, this episode was so freaking good. I loved it.
Oh, yeah. It was an amazing episode. So let's get right down to it. You are listening to Fitz and Friends. This is the Fitz and Mo bonus show. We are breaking down the latest episode of HBO's The Last of Us. New episodes will be in your Spotify and YouTube on Monday. And this is the second to last episode. In this next 45 minutes or so, we're going to be recapping episode 6, The Price. Hi, my name is Fitz.
And I am Mo, and I feel like a stripper right now because it's raining dollars on me. You owe me so much money.
Well, I guess the answer on that one might maybe. It's certainly my prediction that Eugene was going to be the one to drop the dime to Ellie about what happened in Salt Lake City was incorrect, but I do believe you were already down by 2.
We'll talk about that at the end of the episode. But
I'm just saying, I think you're already down by 2.
Okay. Well, I'll make bets on that later. Anyways, let's keep going.
What for real, Mo, what an amazing episode. Oh, dude, they were hitting on all possible cylinders tonight with the show. And if I had to sum up the show in one episode, for me, that word would be unconditional. This episode was about unconditional love, unconditional cruelty, unconditional anger. Oh my God, what an amazing hour of television.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Part of me was like, the word of the episode was lies, but unconditional is definitely more of a thing because there's reason behind these lies. It's an unconditional love. He doesn't want to see her leave him because he's already lost a daughter. I mean, in the most brutal way possible. And for him to have to think about losing her again in a brutal way, it makes sense as to why he lied. But his lies continue to follow him in terrible ways because he's a bad liar. Let's be honest.
This was when I was watching the episode, and you and I have known each other for a long time. I'm like, her and I are both going to love this episode, and we're going to take very different things away from it. I mean, which is, I think it's another one of those episodes where we're just going to think different things about it. But the thing that I did not think we'd ever see in the show was the Joel origin story. Like, we didn't get it in the first season, and now we got a little bit of backstory on Joel. I learned more about Joel Miller as a character in this episode than I have playing the games, like literally where he came from.
First of all, shout out to Tony Dalton, who played his father.
Right.
See, I love him as Lalo in Better Call Saul and in Hawkeye and all these other Marvel shows. But seeing him in just this quick little glimpse as Joel's dad was great. Joel's dad being a cop, him talking about how his father raised him. And I think being from a Hispanic culture, I'm sure well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But, the belt is like a necessity in the Hispanic, that or a chancla. Something's getting thrown at you, dude, 100%. And, you see it getting passed down from generation to generation. Generational trauma. Everyone gets it. But, I think they had the best line. And I'll probably discuss this again a little bit later when his dad tells him he hopes that he'll be a better father than he would. Just a little bit, though. And then later on repeats it again. Like, it's such I just felt it. It was so good.
Generational trauma for sure. Also generational aspirations. I mean, Joel's father knew he wasn't a great father, but he knew he was better than his dad. And he hoped that his boys would be better. And if you look at Tommy is a great, loving, doting father. He's an awesome uncle. So I feel like the message of this episode was that it was about an episode about flawed people trying to make the best decisions in very challenging times. And it was kind of like, if you think about it, like if The Last of Us, the first game, was broken into 4 seasons, this episode was very much broken into 4 birthdays. And I first thought it was 3, but you have some, 15, 16, 17, and 19. Of all the birthdays, which one did you like the best? And why was it 16?
Oh, God. God, it's so hard to say. I mean, obviously 16, because we have one of the most iconic moments in the part 2 of the game where Joel takes Ellie to the Natural History Museum / Space Museum for her birthday.
Yeah.
And man, do they hit those notes, but they hit them so well. And I'm not surprised after seeing who directed this episode, which is Neil Druckmann, the original creator of
Hmm.
The Last of Us. And God, I love that they didn't spend a lot of time. They didn't spend any time with the dinosaurs. They just show the giant T-Rex, which is a huge part in the beginning of that story. But beat for beat, them walking through that uh tunnel of stars
Yeah.
into seeing the orrery and the hand crank and everything. And those are little things that you can interact with in the game. You don't necessarily have to. So it's really cool to see that, but you definitely have to interact with the space capsule. It's just one of the best moments in the game and this episode, especially when they're sitting in the capsule and he gives her the tape of the space launch. I can't remember what year it was, but for her to also go through that same thing that Ellie went through in the game with the imagining of her blasting off,
Yes.
just incredible. Oh my gosh. I have nothing bad to say about this episode.
When The Last of Us, the TV show is great. It takes the best parts of the game and just delivers it better.
Mhm.
Like in the last season, it took the test story and just delivered it better. It took the infected and just delivered it better. This story of the four birthdays, it took the story of the four birthdays, including ones we didn't actually get to see in the game, and just told
Yeah.
the story of Ellie's maturation. It told it better. Oh man, I kind of wish I just wish they'd lingered a little longer in the space capsule because that scene was so magic. I was greedy
Mm.
for it. Oh man, it was so great. That was a wonderful part of the episode, and probably the last perfectly pure moment that Joel and Ellie have ever chance. Another big beat in the episode was we finally got to see Eugene in his role, and I got to tell you, Joe Pantoliano in this, holy crap! The guy's coming in off the top rope with such a clutch cameo. It's like when you saw Eugene for the first time, Mo, what did you think was going to happen?
Well, I kind of called it. I was like, he's bit of some sorts. When
Oh
they
yeah,
kept, leading into when is Eugene coming, they keep, giving these little Easter eggs of this guy, Eugene. And we finally get to see him for a whopping less than 10 minutes.
right.
I was hoping for a little bit more of a backstory, but honestly, I don't even think we really needed after getting what we got because that moment with Eugene sets off a chain reaction of so much more for Ellie.
Mhm.
And I mean, even the birthdays, you see their happiest moment, and every single birthday after 16 is just a decline, a slow decline. Um, but Eugene
Dude, I
delivered.
loved it when Joel's like, "Oh, what? All the teenage stuff all at once." You know, then he
Oh,
just caught her mid something.
can we
In
go
fact,
back to that one real quick though?
17. Okay,
Because
let's go back to 17.
let's talk about these birthdays for a second because
Yeah,
they show scenes that we don't get to normally see. They already
right.
happened in the game
Yeah.
from her getting the chemical burn.
Yeah.
And I think that was for her 15th birthday, right? Before he
Let's
took
see.
her on
So
this.
so it was uh man, it was. I think the episode started with her getting the burn. It started with her
Yes.
her getting the burn, and then that was right before she was 15, and then it was 15 was cake, 16 was dinosaurs, 17 was oh hello, and then 19 was I'll fucking kill you. I mean,
I know, right? Also, shout out to Seth for actually spelling her name right the second time
oh
because the
dude,
first time she's like, "Who's Eli?"
oh my God, it was so good. And Bella Ramsey, man, sometimes her performance of Ellie, we never particularly in this season, we never got to see Ellie as like I see a little squirrel fucking a bigger one, like those little moments of just charming teenager, charming tween. Oh, it
Yeah.
felt so good to see that again.
Also, actually, tweens are before teenagers, so like 12. She is a teenager at this point.
Oh, okay.
It's okay, dad moment. Sorry.
Uh,
Anyways,
did,
I'm actually me. I have to I'm actually you sometimes.
oh, I will take it. Actually at any given time.
But then we move on to 17 where he
Mm,
catches her. He's creating something for her. What is he doing? He's doing something and he overhears some noise. He
yeah.
busts into her room. Oh God, I felt this in my heart because I'm pretty sure almost every teenager has gone through this moment where a parent has busted in while you're maybe in mid action of something. This one
Yeah.
happens to be her hooking up with another chick. He thinks she's experimenting. She's like, you don't even know. Like, this is what I
Yes.
am. On top of
Yep.
that, she got a tattoo from this person. So maybe that
Mhm.
was the trait. I don't know. I just thought that showing that moment of her being a human and her being an actual teenager,
Yes.
uh, even though we are in an apocalyptic world, there's still things that they're going to hit with her being a teenager and growing up and Joel having to be a father figure to her. So, gosh, it was so great to see all of this together in those birthdays. But going back to Eugene now, did you realize or did you know that Joel was going to be lying to Ellie when he said that he wouldn't shoot him?
I knew that Eugene was the second I saw Eugene, I knew that Eugene was not going to walk out of that forest alive. Uh, and this is why. It's like, I was on that was on her 16th birthday is when we met Eugene, or was that 17? No, it was
17. No,
19. Actually, it was
19,
19.
19,
It was
19, 19.
19. So and when she was 16, she's like, I want to go on patrol. Joel's like, no, you got to go to boot camp. So flash forward a couple of years, she's got the training to go out there. And that was not their first time out, but Ellie just showing a little bit of, the sort of teenage impetuousness. Some of the terrible decisions that Ellie makes in this episode, I at first I was like, Jesus Christ, grow up. And I realized, how can she grow up? She's literally either 15, 16, 17, or 19.
Mm-hmm.
um, that Ellie's like, no, we got to take him back. He's not going to make it. They've been on the horse for all that time. There's like he's not gonna do it. So I knew that Eugene was not going to make it. I knew that he was not going to make it. And when I think of like the cool visuals for that episode, that vision of Elysium that Joel took Eugene down to see as the last thing, man, there's never been anything more beautiful than the entire show. It really did look exactly like an afterlife. And
Oh, it
and
was gorgeous. It
and,
was
and,
so
and Joe Pantoliano's performance, such a clutch, critical performance, just that he needed to see his wife and the love of his wife, his unconditional love for his wife. He wanted to see her and hear her testimony of her existence one last time. It wasn't about anything other than his need and love for that person. Like this whole episode was very much about love and cruelty and
hmm
cruelty and the seeds of cruelty being planted in Ellie. Oh, dude, that the Joe Pantoliano cameo was certainly different than I thought it might be, but that it was so short and so intense. Oh, so good. So good. And one of my favorite things that's happened in the show thus far this season. Was amazing.
I did think it was interesting that Joel was about to do a of mice and men situation where he was like, just look out into the middle of the sky and think of happy things. I'm going to shoot you in the back of the head. Okay. I
You, you
just
know,
it was funny to me. I don't know why I busted out laughing. It was not a laughing moment, but I just
well,
I
because
just
you know
thought
what
it
it is
was
is that
funny.
because Joey Penn's like, oh my God, I got to see my wife one more time. I got to hear you. Like, he's doing that. But his silence
Mm,
and his pensiveness and his coming to grips so quickly with the reality of his life and what his passing is going to be, and that he found peace in that moment. He's like, he understood it on some level. He understood it that Joel was not going to put Ellie at risk. That Joel was not going to put anyone they might run into a risk by bringing a guy who was going to be totally no longer a human being by the time they got back to Jackson.
yeah.
He understood it. And I truly believe that in his heart of hearts, and he saw Gail one last time. He even said it, I'm ready. And
Mm,
then Joel shot him. It was in many ways, again, an act of love, because Joel knew that Eugene was not going to make it. And he put him in a place where he could find his peace as opposed to being tied, like hog tied on the back of a fucking horse. You see
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
Joel made that hard call. He made that hard call. And it takes an actor as good as Joe Pantoliano to come in with that cameo, and then Catherine O'Hara as Gail with the reaction to the story coming out. I mean, it's just, man, such clutch cameo, such clutch cameo. So I guess for the Eugene thing, I knew that Eugene on screen would be an igniting crisis point for Ellie of some variety. I knew that was going to happen, but the how that whole thing played out, I'm like, oh my God, this is just great. This is just great. I mean, I don't think there was a single close up anywhere at any time in this episode, where the characters were not crying. Joel was crying in the spacecraft. You saw the trickle of a tear down Eugene's face as he finally saw Gail. That's what broke him down. And then Ellie riding ahead of Joel, a tear streaming down her face because she now understands in that moment that Joel has lied to her. She suspected it, but in that moment, she had the agency to truly believe what she knew the whole time. I mean, and it took a short, sharp, incredible performance to set all those other performances up. It made everything feel
Mm.
earned. I know that you and I've talked a lot about in this show, like sometimes these moments don't feel earned. Fuck. Everyone put in all the work and more necessary to make everything feel so earned to me. And and so if we move on to the next thing that happens in the show is like we see at the end Ellie confronting Joel on the porch, and he redoubles on his love for her. She goes, "Did you do this stuff?" Yes. His absolute unconditional love for her. He would sacrifice the entirety of the world for her once, twice, every day. If he knew that she was going to live 1 minute longer than him, he would sacrifice the whole world to save her. That's how much he loves her. And to see that moment of unconditional love from Joel, where he treats her as the adult she is becoming, because by that time she's becoming an adult, it we saw Ellie showing the beginnings of a maturity where she did not forgive Joel, but the seed of healing was planted in that moment of just candor and grace and riveting performances. But that Joel, I think on some level, Ellie expected Joel to lie to her again, and he's like, "No, I did it. I would do it again. I would do it tomorrow." That was the purest, honest expression of the unconditional love that is everywhere in this episode. Also, there are moments of unconditional cruelty with Ellie and Gail. Mo, when you saw Ellie do what she did to Gail, what did you think about that?
Well, I don't think she did it to Gail. It was more what Joel did to Gail. And
Hmm.
Ellie knew exactly what was going to happen. She knew that he was going to lie, but she wanted to know how it was going to happen.
Oh,
And then
interesting.
for her to come around and say he's lying to you and just completely expose him, like, I don't think it was to hurt Gail. I think that's obvious. I think she deserved to know the truth. And the fact that kind of showed like Ellie also deserves to know the truth. Even though she knows the truth, she just wants him to admit it.
Hmm.
And ultimately, that's all she's asked. And maybe if he did originally admit it in the beginning, in at the last episode of the last season, um, things would have been different, but it wouldn't have led to everything where it is now.
She would have been 14 and a half years old.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, she would have been 14 and a half years old. She really, I mean, as I have been accurately, actually, she wasn't a tween anymore, but my God, she wasn't, I don't know if she had the emotional maturity to handle it. And when Ellie did that to Gail, Joel was telling her a white lie to disguise a painful thing.
Mm-hmm. In
It,
a
yeah.
way, love is also, it's not just about, the happiness and the joy that you
Mm,
experience with love, but it's also the cruelty of love. You
yeah.
do it seems cruel, but you're doing it to soften blows. You're doing it because you don't want to cause pain. You think it's going to cause more pain, but in reality, those lies that you say out of love do cause so much more harm than it does, good.
I agree with you. I mean, I do agree with you. And what we're seeing on screen is the seeds of Ellie's cruelty really taking root. Because ultimately, what did Ellie get out of making Gail know that her husband suffered terribly in his last moments, which actually he didn't. Joel gave him, as we just discussed, he gave him a moment of peace that he deserved because the alternative was hog-tied to a horse until he lost the thing that made him Eugene. That's
Mm-hmm.
what was going to happen. That's what is absolutely going to happen. That Ellie was so mad at Joel, she looked at a woman named Gail and said, "Nope, I'm going to take that from you because you need to know how angry I am at that man for the thing that he did to save my life." I mean, it's I can't ever justify lying to our loved ones. It happens. But man, that Ellie just like, I'm sorry, Gail. Let me tell you what actually happened. Eugene totally could have made it, in my estimation, and Joel denied that to you because he denies everybody everything. I could have saved the world with my death. It was, oh man, it was got such a good episode, so goddamn good.
Dude, everybody is doing acting gymnastics. Well,
Oh, dude, yeah.
especially Pedro. My
Mm,
God, to see things through his perspective in these flashbacks were phenomenal because most of the time we're just seeing both of their perspectives. But
yeah.
even going back to the New Year's Eve party and showing
Mm,
that exact same scene, but through
hmm.
the eyes of Joel, man, it changes a lot because you also get to see the final interaction between Ellie and Joel and her wanting to continue their relationship,
Yeah.
at least try to. Because
Yeah.
what she says, look, I don't think I can ever forgive you, but I want to try. And God, I got to tell you, there were moments the way that Bella delivered these lines sounded almost identical to Ashley Johnson's voice, especially when we get to see her in the younger years, her
Yeah.
sweetness and her
Yeah.
cadence. Oh,
Yeah.
just fantastic. What a great nod. Oh my goodness.
I loved the way they went back to the New Year's scene without going back to the New Year's scene. Like seeing it from a different perspective gives us a chance to see a great scene with another set of eyes. I really love that. And we got to see a little bit more explanation of Seth, which is it's just we got to see like dipping in a little bit more into the world of the Last of Us. So it's interesting because there were absolutely no infected in this episode, but do we have a monster moment?
There was one infected, but it was dead. And I think the monster moment.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Oh, you just actually me twice.
Dang.
Oh, god damn.
Oh
Oh
God.
shit. How the tables have been turned.
I got
She's
like
like,
12 more.
actually, there was another infected. Oh, dude. Well done. Well, oh my god, well done.
You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. But honestly, the real monster in this wasn't so much an actual monster, but it was Joel's lies
Mm,
on how much his lies have affected people and their lives. Even though, and we talked about it before, even though he's thinking he's like softening the blow or trying to protect them from any more pain, it's just caused more pain. So that for me, that's the monster.
when I think of if there was a monster in this episode, it is such a like a phantasmal spirit. The monster in this episode is the burgeoning cruelty in Ellie. The burgeoning cruelty in Ellie.
Mm.
Because if Ellie had thought for a moment that telling Gail the truth about how Eugene died doesn't do anything other than hurt Gail, Ellie is free to confront Joel with what she knows in a way that does not cause collateral damage. And a lot of the things we see across The Last of Us Part 2, as people who played it, there is a shit ton of collateral damage as Ellie pursues her anger. So I feel like if there was a monster in this episode, it was Ellie's cruelty to Gail. Every time Ellie has killed previously in the game, it's been through self-protection to save others. That Ellie inflicted such permanent psychic injury on Gail for no other reason than she's mad at Joel. That is unconditional cruelty. Watching this episode, seeing the four birthdays, reminded me as a viewer how young Ellie is. That all teenagers are they're on that quest, that quixotic journey to becoming adults and asking, what am I here for? What is my purpose? And that Ellie feels like it was dangled in front of her like a greater and noble, I will save the world through my noble sacrifice. I
Mm-hmm.
could see as a teenager who was a little emo around the edges, asking herself questions about things, might latch on to that. And because she's an impulsive teenager, she's also very cruel with that feeling that she has been denied. So she's going to hurt anyone around her. And that's why that last moment with Joel on the porch I thought was so meaningful, because it felt finally Ellie maturing.
Mm-hmm.
That man, she kicked the fucking shit out of Gail, And if Ellie were to live to be 60, that'd be a moment she would regret for the rest of her fucking life. If she got to be as old as Joel, she would regret that because all she did was cause pain in Gail because she was mad at Joel. She wasn't mad at Gail. If Gail had gone to her grave thinking Eugene was not afraid and he was not in pain when he died, that is just a better feeling for that person. No, it may not be true, but in a world as harsh as the one that they live in, God, why add optional cruelty? And in that moment, it felt like optional cruelty. And the beginning of the Ellie will do anything because of the intensity of the emotion she has around Joel, both positive and negative.
Mhm.
Joel's feelings towards Ellie, of course, he's going to lie to Gail. He's going to lie to the fucking world. He lied to everyone in that town about whether or not Ellie was infected because he
Mm.
loves her that much. And he makes flawed decisions. He makes flawed decisions. So maybe Tommy's the one who grows up to be a good dad, but certainly Joel's a better father than his father, and his father is a better father than his grandfather because even they're drinking Budweisers, I'm like, God damn, these guys are fucking from Texas. They're drinking Buds. Joel's father, he did not strike Joel. He did not strike Tommy. He you could tell he was struggling with it. I mean, these are imperfect people making imperfect decisions in very, very trying times, very, very trying times.
Agreed.
Eugene is the ignition point for Ellie's crisis of faith. I think it's just one of the most remarkable things we've seen in the show, and definitely one of the high points of adaptation. So you are currently playing the game. How does this track with the game?
Dead on. Dead
Oh,
on. So when in the last episode we see Ellie just go full Donkey Kong on freaking Nora,
yeah,
which there is a cut scene as soon as she hits her, and it's a flashback to her and
yeah,
Joel and
yeah,
happier times.
yep.
And the flashback happens to be this whole uh museum scene, her birthdays. Granted, we don't go through all the birthdays. We just go through key points of the museum scene, her finding out about the fireflies because she actually goes to investigate herself in
Hmm.
Salt Lake City
Yeah,
to see what was going on. And in this episode, though, you do see her getting ready to ask these questions. She
yeah,
has a list,
totally.
and ultimately, she doesn't get to ask those questions word for word, but she does get to ask those three questions that gives her the answers that she needs, even though Joel doesn't even speak. He's just nodding or shaking his head no because he is so ashamed of what he did that he can't even like say it out loud, especially to someone that he loves the most and he knows that he's hurt her just through his lies. Not even though he was physically hurt as a child, his words hurt probably way more than being physically hurt.
It comes down to the nature of Joel's deception. This is where you and I just see this differently. Joel loves Ellie so much that he would burn down the world to keep her alive. We are seeing an Ellie who loves Joel so much, she'd burn down the world because he's dead. And
Mm.
so, I mean, the unconditional love, the unconditional cruelty. I mean, you and I just see, I mean, Joel, he lied to Ellie. Yeah, he lied to a 14 and a half year old girl who is very smart. She grows to be a very smart woman and says, "You can't fucking lie to me, Joel. You lie to me again, we're over." And then he sees her as the burgeoning adult, and then he confesses. He treats her as a peer in a way. And man, he loves her so much. And I think that on some level, she expected him to back away from it. But he's like, no, I would fucking do it now. I mean, my God, I'm getting fucking verklempt just thinking about it. That expression and Pedro Pascal's performance. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. This is a TV show based on a video game. Oh my God. That it just how powerful the narrative was. Um, yeah, I just can't praise it enough. And Bella's performance in this was just fucking knocking it out of the park.
I
So
really
good.
think that they have such a great chemistry,
Oh, dude,
not
yes.
just like on screen, but even off the screen. He
Hmm.
actually, I think they protect each other. I don't know if you watch interviews with them or things
Oh,
that they've done on YouTube. I'm a massive interview watcher. And to see how they interact and they protect each other because it really just goes to show. how that translates so well on screen
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Yeah.
They give each other so much grace, and they're so generous with the
Yes.
acting abilities that they're giving each
Yes.
other. They can't
Yeah.
help but feed off of it, and it's
Yeah.
just pure magic on screen. You can't help but fall in love with them.
I will say that when Joel showed his incredible enthusiasm and deep knowledge of what a Dremel is, I'm like, oh, Joel. Yes, you're right. It is a router and can be a saw sometimes. That Joel's dad love enthusiasm for the stuff that he's a nerd about. I love that. And I'm like, I'm watching the show and I'm like, oh shit. What's that triple X rated crafting bench doing in the background? Dude, when
um
I saw that bench, I'm like, Mo has got to be like, oh my fucking God. He's like, that's some serious crafting bench right there.
oh my gosh, let's just say I got wood, like literally in the show, and it was great. But also a bone. I also got a bone. I did
Yeah.
not realize that he was like cutting this bone open to add it to the guitar, and to see him crafting the guitar, I came. It was so great. I loved it
Dude,
so much.
it's like I'm all, my God, Phoenix has gotten so steamy. Mo must be at the parking at the crafting bench steamy.
Oh,
I just
why
I loved how stoked he was on and I will say this, Ace is a place with a product placement deal and Dremel and
Dremel?
Dremel. You know, because there's a million things that are like a Dremel that aren't Dremel. That Joel's like, let me tell you about how good a Dremel is. I'm like, God damn, you are making even this charming as fuck. You know,
You're gonna want
uh,
a Dremel in the apocalypse. That's all we're saying. That's what this is all leading up to. That's the whole storyline.
dude, I cannot. This definitely is one of the best episodes. Mo, what was the line of the episode for you?
Ooh, I had mentioned it earlier. The line of the episode for me was, I hope you do a little better than me. That is both from Joel's dad and Joel to Ellie.
Yeah.
And it was nice that they brought it all back around, like what's the
Hmm.
word? Like bookended, I think
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um that was it for me, because it really just, it goes to show that everybody wants to do a little bit better than the generation before.
Sometimes when we do this show, and I love doing the show with you, I realize because we love the game so much, I don't ever want people to feel like you have to have played the games. And there's sometimes we talk about stuff that's going to happen in the games because like the sad part is like Joel is trying to do better for Ellie. Ellie is being put in a position where she can do better for the people in her life. She even said last time, I'm going to be a dad. What sort of dad is Ellie going to be? Uh,
Mm.
right? I mean, when you see like you see her being set up for the life with Joel, the life with Tommy. Because if you think about it, Ellie, an incredibly fucked up universe. It's a fucked up universe. She has a really good family around her. She's got a good dad. She's got a great uncle. She's got a great aunt. She's got girlfriends. She's got Captain fucking Wyoming, who's a guy who will run across the fucking country to save some fucking ass. I mean, she's in a good place, and so you kind of feel like, man, she's gonna grow up to be the best dad, isn't she? Isn't
Okay.
she? As I am the Natalie Portman meme, right? Right?
I'm going to say I know exactly what kind of dad Ellie is going to be. She's going to be the dad that's like, I'm going to go out for some milk and a pack of cigarettes. I'll be right back.
I'll come back with less fingers this time. Let's make predictions for the for next episode. Mo, what happens next episode? What's your hot take?
Ooh, so when we leave this episode, we see Ellie walking back up to the theater. So we're in day 3 of Seattle, I would
Yeah.
assume. I think she's going to walk in and Abby is in there and she already has Dina and Jesse pinned. I don't know if Joel or if Tommy will be in there as well,
Mm,
but I think it's going to go into that whole situation. Maybe even a little bit of shock that she just went crazy on Nora. Because
right.
that happens in the game too. When she shows back up at the theater, her body is shaking. I think she
Yep.
just doesn't realize like how brutal of a kill she had done. She basically, this is her first torture for the most
Hmm.
part. So I really feel like it's going to hit those beats. And I don't think we're going to see them. Oh, I don't think we're going to see them fight. I think it'll end since we have one last episode. Oh, God. I'm so sad this is one last episode left. I think it's going to end with Abby potentially maybe killing someone.
Hmm.
I don't want to say who exactly because
Right.
I'm still on the fence on who it'll be or if
Right.
anybody will die.
Right.
But I think it'll cut there as a cliffhanger to find out who's dead or who's gonna die. And then when we start the next season, I think it's gonna kick off to Abby's perspective.
I feel like just from what we saw of the preview, we saw some scars, we saw some fighting, we saw
I
some Captain Wyoming,
didn't
we
see the
saw
preview. I didn't want to
oh
watch it. I didn't want to
oh
watch it.
okay.
Oh.
Well, I was like, I watched the preview. We saw some scars. We saw some Captain Wyoming. We saw some beat for beat on screen from the game action. I mean, beat for beat. So I think the next episode, which will be the last episode of the first season, I think we're gonna have a return of Abby, and everything has to end with a big fight and a cliffhanger. And I think that's definitely where we're gonna be.
Mm.
So Mo, let's get to it. On a scale of 1 to 10 clickers infected, where do you rate this episode and why?
Ooh, I'm gonna say 9 out of 10 clickers for fan service, 9 out of 10 for character development, 10 out of 10 for acting, and 1,000 out of 10 for hot dad of the year, Joel. Oh
I
my
may take my
god.
shirt off. That's
Uh,
I'm
oh
with
my
you.
god. Oh my god. Unless you look like Joel, I'm gonna say yes. My god. Okay. What about you?
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is an episode that we agree a lot on for the most part. What would your rating be?
So for me, my God, I would say 9, almost 10. You know,
Oh.
yeah, 9, almost 10. And this is why it was so great for me. I always think of like when there's a good episode of television or a good movie, that it's an entirely self-contained story. That if someone had never watched a previous episode or knew anything about the game, they could walk in and go on a great emotional journey. And if you knew nothing about these characters, you would know enough that that's the dad, that's the daughter, some shit went down, the world's weird, she's mad at him. The relationships are so self-evident in all of the performances that you don't need to know a fucking thing about what's
Mm,
going on, that it's a complete narrative, much like how episode 3 of the last season was a complete narrative of the story of Bill and Frank. This episode 6, was a complete narrative that if you knew nothing about these characters of the show, you could walk in and go, okay, these people have gone through some shit and the future is looking bright. And of course, it's going to have the happiest of endings for Ellie and Joel because they're coming together in the spirit of forgiveness and healing.
mm,
They're going to be
mm.
fine, right? Right? You know? So there it is. Yeah, I would say nine, nearly 10. Probably, I'll say it, my favorite episode of the season thus far.
Oh gosh, I'm with you. I was getting a little bit of like remnants of episode 3 in the first
Mm,
season, where you have these flashbacks where they're telling stories that we haven't necessarily experienced, but kind of saw in the game. And they did. Craig Mazin has done a fantastic job adapting this entire series to work
oh,
as a
yes.
series. And the fact that he's worked directly with Neil to make this
Hmm.
happen, we were definitely never going to go wrong. I mean, God, freaking Craig Mazin did Chernobyl. That show was incredible.
Oh,
Um,
dude.
and you
Yes.
can even tell there's some remnants of Chernobyl in the way that they set the tone and stuff in this series. So I love it
Mhm.
so much. But I would have to say that third episode in season 1 was top tier. This one is second for me, and the third one has to be the episode 2 of this season. All of the epic buildup with
Oh my gosh.
Jackson and
Oof.
with Joel dying. Like, oh my god, we've been given some great television. I love it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And one last little coda before we get to the real star of the show, Mo Puns. Um, so if you are wondering whether or not you should play The Last of Us uh, Part 2 on PlayStation or Xbox or stream it on your PC, but you don't play video games. I was talking to one of my buddies who has watched the show and is now loves the show. And he asked, "Oh, could I play it? Would the game be too hard?" Games, great games. And Last of Us Part 2 is a good example. They have varying modes where you can just it caters to gamers of all skills. Like you can take the game to a level where you can play and be challenged, but not be overwhelmed by game mechanics. And any game that is just as good on story mode as it is on double extreme, that's a fucking game worth playing because the gameplay, the narrative, the world, the mechanics, that's where it is. If a game cannot be played at all levels of skill and accessibility for people who might have, like colorblind or motor coordination challenges, if a game can't be scaled to include all gamers, that's just shitty game design, bro. And The Last of Us is not that. So if you've never played a video game in your life, if the last game you played was Madden when you were 11, you can step into The Last of Us Part 2, put it to story mode. It'll be challenging enough to get you going, and you'll be able to jump into this from a gameplay perspective. So don't let I've never played video games, which can seem daunting in this because for fuck's sake, they made 3 series of this on HBO. Don't let that get in the way because there's a way for people to get involved in The Last of Us Part 2 from gameplay, and The Last of Us Part 1 too. You can dial it into a perfect gameplay experience.
I would also suggest if you don't want to play video games because maybe you're just not into the mechanics of it all,
Yeah.
I would highly recommend streaming online,
Oh yes.
a streamer on Twitch or YouTube. There are so many people that will play this game over and over again.
Yep.
And you can find them hitting all of those beats, and trust me, it will almost feel like you're playing the game.
Yeah,
But
there's so many great Let's Plays out there. She's exactly right.
absolutely. All right, let's get to the finale, the thing that we're all here for. At least I'm here for
Mo,
it.
pun us away.
First, before we begin, I'm not getting into a pun, I promise. I just want to say that these puns are themed yet again for this episode.
Okay.
I've got, you know what? I'll just get into it. I'm not even going to tell you. Why can't you hear a pterodactyl go to the bathroom?
Why is that?
The P is silent.
Ooh, like the G in lasagna.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Nice.
Why can't dinosaurs clap their hands?
Why is that?
Because they're extinct. That's a Joel joke. Or it's a joke that Joel would probably say.
My Dremel. My Dremel.
My Dremel. Oh, yeah. The puns are also sponsored by Dremel. What do you have to do to have a space party?
What's that?
You plan it.
God damn it.
Yeah.
That one works. That one fucks. I like that one. That's a good one.
I can see all of the planets revolving in your head. You're like, how does this work?
It's like them all. No. Seriously, I'm at all the Lagrange points on that one. That's a good one. I like it.
All right. Okay. I'm afraid of the calendar. Its days are numbered. Okay, that one.
Okay, so are there any more?
Last one.
Okay.
And this is in honor of Daddy Joel. What's the best way to save your dad jokes? In a database.
Like this episode, I'm going to give these 9, nearly 10 for the dinosaur callbacks, the planet, and you got some fucking good dad ones in there. Girl, you nailed it.
I love a good theme. I love a good theme, baby. All right.
So please review this show on Spotify and YouTube, and follow us on the social medias. Mo, what are your socials?
At MORO Radio or Moro Radio.
And you can reach out to me, Fitz Madrid on Instagram or fitzmadrid.com. And please share your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you. The last episode of Fitz and Friends, the Fitz and Mo bonus show, will be in your feeds next Monday because we will have the season finale of The Last of Us Part 2 on HBO. Mo, thank you. And thank you to everyone who is listening to us. And we will see you next week for the season finale.